of Tushita, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, and in particular to our speaker today, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul. It is indeed a great honor and pleasure to have with us Geshe-la today after almost a year. So we hope you'll come more often, not once a year. So Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul is presently the director of Tibet House, the cultural center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Geshe-la, was it in 1988? You joined the institute?
Yes.
In 1988, Geshe-la joined the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, Dharamsala, for formal studies in Buddhist logic, philosophy, and epistemology. After 15 years of study in Buddhist philosophy, he finished his Geshe Larampa degree, which is equivalent to a PhD, in 2002 from Drepung Loseling Monastic University. He also joined Gyume Tantric College for a year for Tantric studies. Geshe-la gives regular teachings at Tibet House and many other universities both in India and abroad. Geshe-la has taught at universities such as MIT, Harvard, Emory, Stanford, JNU, Delhi University, and so on. The focus of his teachings is Buddhist philosophy, psychology, logic, and practice. Today, Geshe-la is going to speak on healing anger and throw light on how through the practice of patience we can overcome the obstacles of anger and hatred. Geshe-la, we are very grateful to you for your presence here at Tushita once again, and we hope that in the future you'll keep coming. And thank you so much.
And used with great compassion, you taught immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha, Dharma, I make prostrations. Okay. So, recently I met Professor Renugaji. Then she requested if it is possible to have a talk here in Tushita. I personally feel that Tushita is really is a greatly instrumental for Buddhism, particularly in Delhi. And I would say that even from a very secular point of view, we see that the people nowadays, they have more and more tension in their life, and then the more and more younger people, they start to have more mental difficulties, challenges, depression, stress, and so forth. It is for this reason that it's very important for the places like Delhi to have, centers and places to go to turn towards when they want a little bit of, to distress themselves, for meditation, for calming themselves down, and so forth. So from that point of view, it's amazing. Although we have Tibet House there, but when people come there and then ask me if where can they go for some meditations and so forth, I always recommend Tushita Center here in Delhi. Okay, so to be very honest, It's not that there's one center there and that the center automatically operates itself. That's not the case. It should be on a basis of what is on a basis of the principle known as dependent origination. Something can exist by dependence on so many factors, and to be very honest, one of the greatest factors required for that is the one who makes sure that the center is running. So it is Professor Renugaji, who had been working so tirelessly for the last many years, which we're all very grateful to her. And I personally, so I do my own work. So meanwhile, I have a very tremendous feeling of gratefulness to anyone who is serving the Dharma, who is there to help the beings. It's not necessary that the person should be a Buddhist for me to feel the admiration. Any person, whether Christian, non-believer, Hindu, Muslim, Jain, anyone who is there to give love and affection to someone else, to take care of someone else, this is amazing. This really makes me simply lost in admiration. So this is what I feel deeply, deeply grateful to Professor Renugaji for this matter, one. And then particularly this center is very fortunate on the basis of the fact that there is the Venerable Kabirji and the Venerable Samdinla, the fact that there are two monastics here, and the Professor Renuga also feels very comfortable that there's someone there, and two of them, they're putting all the efforts to make sure that whoever comes here is well received, and they get whatever they expect to get from the center. And there are a number of people associated with the center since many years ago, and despite their own personal responsibilities, still they make the point that they to make contributions to the center as much as they can. So there are a number of them here. So equally, I feel so grateful to all of them. For example, like say the Beshla, and earlier there are many people involved, and we have I saw that your name? Charu. So do we see that there are a number of the volunteers here? This is amazing, wonderful. So I'm very grateful to all of you. So the topic today is, you already know that, healing anger, the power of compassion. So this is the topic. In fact, I remember 2009, if I'm not wrong, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, during a public talk in Delhi University, at the end of the talk, during the question and answer session, then one girl stood up and asked His Holiness as to what is the meaning of life. And His Holiness, without hesitation, said, the meaning of life, we live on hope, and we hope for happiness. So from this, we come to know that the meaning of life is seeking a genuine happiness. And genuine happiness is the meaning of life. And then, about a year ago, a friend of mine, during a very casual discussion, he was asking me, Geshe, tell me what's the meaning of life. So, what can I say other than what His Holiness said, who said it so precisely, succinctly? I said, it's just to seek a genuine meaning, genuine happiness for yourself. Then he said, this person is more intellectual. So he said, is this the only meaning? Just to seek happiness, your own happiness, the genuine happiness? Then, this is the meaning. In actuality, the fact is that only if we go through our life experiences, then we see that the genuine happiness is so precious. Whereas if somebody has not really gone through that, then we have to say something. So what I said is, I put the same thing from a different angle. I said, to discover yourself fully, to discover yourself fully, what we are now. Oh, I'm sad, I'm a hopeless person, oh, I have this difficulty, that difficulty, oh, I'm not getting the job that I'm looking for, and then say, so this problem, that problem. This is not who you are. This is not who you are. These are all the adventitious difficulties which are so adventitious. Your true nature, the true nature of you is very different from what we manifest ourselves. So the true nature is very different. It's so pure. It's full of compassion. It's amazingly compassionate. And it's full of wisdom. It's a tremendous power. So this is who we are. And we fail to discover that. As long as we fail to discover that, we see that we are miserable. We see that we are just a hopeless person. In actuality, what we see ourselves as hopeless, as meaningless, that is not who we are. So to discover the full potential, to discover the true reality of who we are, this is the meaning of our life. And he was very happy. Okay, so now what I'd like to share with you here is that at times, of course, I'll try to avoid myself. I'll try to refrain myself from being too technical. I will be as simple in my presentation. Meanwhile, there could be some nuances involved, and only if we pay a little attention to this, one may be able to see the benefit of this. Otherwise, okay, it's going to be simple. So when you speak about, say, the meaning of the life, as much as possible, what we try to do is that from here, when you look at, maybe the youngest would be aged like 19 or 20, anyone who's younger than 19, or anyone who is 19 or who is 20, okay, one here, one girl here, okay, anyone else, yes dear, a boy here, anyone else, okay, let's say someone who is the late teens, say 19, and then we slowly go into 20s, then 30s. Nobody can stop that. And in this experience of our life, we should be to look for the pursuit of our life. We should be trying to be very realistic. And then see, what am I? What's the plight of my mind? Am I happy? Am I unhappy? What about others? Are they happy? Unhappy? Right? So just keep exploring like this. Try to look at things very objectively. Objectivity is required. And some people, they are suffering terribly. And they will converse. And from the expression, from the manifestation of the body language, we could see that person suffering terribly. And then trying to hide. Okay, sometimes it may be helpful, but in actuality, in true sense, the best would be try to know oneself, whether you're suffering, whether you're happy, whether you are positive or negative. Know yourself so well. This is so important. Know yourself so well, to be very honest, to know yourself so well. Meanwhile, keep in mind that the true nature of each one of us, the true nature, believe it or not, the true nature, ultimately your nature and your true nature, these two are different. Don't mix up the two things. Your nature and your ultimate nature, your true nature, these two are very different. Right? For example, say the water. Okay, this is a clean water, whereas if this is a dirty water extracted from, say, Yamuna River, If this is dirty water extracted from Yamuna River, it's very dirty. It's very dirty. So the nature of the water is dirty, but the true nature of this water is not dirty. Make this distinction. This is so important. The nature of water is dirty. How do you know this? Nobody wants to drink it. And how do you know that the true nature of this water is clean? This is what we have to know. How to know that the true nature of this water is clean? This is the point. So I'd like to give one example. That say, now this water, this is not yet open. This is the coming from factory. So this very clean, what we call this a very clean water, clean bottled water. So this clean water, how is it that this is clean? Because this is a treated water. This is a treated water, which means that earlier which was not clean was treated, and now it becomes very clean. So how was this water treated? This is the next question. Initially it was very dirty, and then the dirts, the pollutants, the defilements, they were all taken out. When they are taken out, then the true nature of the water then comes out. It's so pure, so clean. The perfect purity, perfect purity. It does not come from outside. Okay, if I ask you this question, so this very clean water now, after the purification, after the process, after the treatment, this becomes very clean. Before that it was not clean. So this purity of the water, where did it come from? Did it come from Himalaya or from the very dirty water? What's the answer? Anyone? From the dirty water itself. So now we see that this purity which comes out later after extracting all the dirts. So that purity existed in a non-manifest form while the water was dirty. It existed in the form of non-manifest form, but it did exist in a non-manifest form. Right? Now, how does it become manifest? How does it become manifest? Is when you separate the true nature of the water with the adventitious nature of the water. Adventitious nature of the water is what? The dirt, the pollutants, all these water sediments, they were the adventitious nature. When you extract them, then the true nature of the water comes out. Okay. So with this, our mind, keep in mind that our mind is very much like, however dirty our mind is, however defiled our mind is, the true nature of mind is same. Our mind, which is like very dirty, is like very dirty water, dirty water. But however dirty the water is, the true nature of the water is not dirty. Likewise, however dirty our mind is, the true nature of mind is not dirty. So once you remove the mental dirts, the mental pollutants, then the true nature of the mind will become manifest. That is in the form of clearlight. So in other words, whether you are a believer, whether you're a non-believer, whether you are Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, even non-believers, scientists, who does not believe in any religion, everyone who has the mind, they have this power, they have this potential of the purity. So that is the true nature of each one of us. So this, with the help of this example, one must gain conviction in the true nature of ourselves. True nature of ourselves. This is so important. Only if we become confident that, oh, my true nature is so pure. It's amazingly pure, right? Amazingly pure. But I'm behaving as though like my mind is very dirty now. Yes, it is dirty, but it is not intrinsically dirty. But it's not inherently dirty. The true nature of the mind is not dirty. It is so pure. Okay, so with this, now the next question is, if this is the true nature of my mind, how can I make this true nature of mind becomes manifest? For this dirty water, what do? We subject the water to the treatment, say by exposing this to chemical alum, or by exposing this to the reverse osmosis treatment. We apply any kind of treatment measures to extract, to separate the dirts, the pollutants from the true nature of the water. Likewise, in our case, in the case of the mind, what kind of treatment are we going to apply so that the mental dirts are separated and the true nature of mind becomes manifest? This is the question. Okay, so for this, keeping aside the many of the technicalities, I like to jump to the topic, which is healing anger and the power of compassion. So we see that to make this mind manifest of its true nature, one, what is it like? What is it going to be like if the true nature of my mind becomes manifest? For example, the dirty water, if the true nature of the dirty water becomes manifest, then what is it like? It is something which everybody likes to drink. When the true nature of the water becomes manifest, then dirts are no more there. It becomes so clean, so pure, everybody likes to drink it. It becomes so appealing. Likewise, if the true nature of mind, which is so pure, becomes manifest, what is it going to be like? This is the question. So here, the answer is very simple. Let's say, we all have our problems. Before we try to locate what is the reason of the problems, just tell me, what does it mean by I have a problem? Right? I have a problem means, just see whether you agree with me or not. When I say I have a problem, which means that I want something to happen like this, but it is not happening. It is happening the other way, right? Then this is what I call as a problem. For example, say, I can't bear the Delhi heat. I have a problem with the heat, which means my body, I like to have the temperature, Delhi temperature, 22 degrees centigrade. And it is unfortunately going to 40 today, 41 today. And then tomorrow, don't ask me whether down or up, it'll go 42. And 2 days later, it's going to be 43, right? I don't want this. I want 22 degrees centigrade, right? But it is 42 now, which means I want it to happen like this, but it's not happening, which means that when something does not happen the way you like, this is known as problem. This is what we see as problem. If, just think of any problem, it's not just with the temperature, with the food, with your friends, with your children, with your parents, with the spouses, with your, say, the house, the neighbors, and with your job. Whatever problem that you have, believe it or not, or see whether it is true or not, that the problem means something, you want to happen something like this, but it is not happening this way. So this is how we see as problem. Okay, now with the problem, one distinctive feature of the problem is that we are weak. Don't forget it. When we say, I have a problem, which means I want things to happen like this, but it is not in my hand. You agree with me or not? When we say, I have a problem, means I want things to happen like this, but it is not happening because it is not in my hand. You agree with me or not? If it is not in your hand, you are vulnerable. You become weak. You are vulnerable. You don't have the freedom. You are vulnerable. So when we say somebody is so vulnerable, then immediately we'll feel sympathy. We'll feel compassion towards that person. You agree with me or not? When we see that somebody is vulnerable, then automatically our mind, generally speaking, our mind responds as very sympathetic, very compassionate, very empathetic, right? So in other words, problem means that we become vulnerable. Okay, yet our true nature of the mind is so pure, and when it becomes manifest fully, what happens is that it becomes vulnerable no more. When the true nature of your mind becomes manifest, it becomes vulnerable no more. It is no more vulnerable. It is no more vulnerable means no external factors. No external factors can affect you. Right? Whether you are on 41 degrees centigrade, you are happy. You are in 22 degrees centigrade, you are happy. Right? And you are in, say at the minus 10 degrees centigrade, you are happy. No external factors can affect you. Right? So, when our mind, when the true nature of mind becomes manifest, then what is the benefit, or in what way, what is that like? What is that experience like? Is that we become vulnerable no more. We are no more vulnerable. We are no more vulnerable. So this is a benefit. And when we say we are no more vulnerable, we have all our problems stop. All our problems stop. Okay. Now with this irony, the irony has it that what is the opposite of vulnerability? Vulnerability means weak. What is the opposite of weakness? Strength, right? Okay. Irony is that who makes you vulnerable? Who makes you strong? Right? External factors are there. But finally, who makes you strong? Who makes you vulnerable? Is your own mental thinking. Is your own mental thinking. Believe it or not, it is our own mental thinking which makes us strong, which makes us vulnerable. Right? Okay. Now, for example, say, Charles Darwin, one of his major the hypothesis is that our emotions such as attachment, anger, jealousy, competitiveness, and so forth, these emotions are gifts of evolution, gifts to us, gifts of human evolution. These come into us through evolution. It's many years, millennia, millions of years of evolution that now we are gifted with attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth. This is according to Charles Darwin's hypothesis, right? Okay, so how he justifies this? Is that same. We, as species, we have to survive. As species, we have to survive. To survive, there are threats. To survive, we need conducive factors. So we should have a facility to bring all the conducive factors. We should have a facility to push aside all the threats. It's amazing. If you study Charles Darwin, of course we all have been to the schools, so we were already exposed to the study of Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory. So this amazing, just one person, amazing. One person came up with all these theories. For example, like the Buddhist Shakyamuni, coming up with all these different theories about ontological reality, about epistemological reality, about emotions, about how to bring an end to the negative emotions. So one person, like Buddha Shakyamuni, came up with all these brilliant ideas. Likewise, Charles Darwin also came up with brilliant ideas as to how the emotions arise, how we the human beings evolved from this unicellular organism, from there, how many years it took, and so forth, and where he went to different places to look for the what do you call them, the fossils. Then on the basis of the fossils, he was not only getting the data, but interpreting as to on the basis of these, then how the evolution took place. So what I'm saying is that, according to Charles Darwin, we as species, there's a natural tendency for us to say, keep going, to live, to continue this species. To continue, there are two things. One is the threat which can come in the way to its continuation. And the other one is the conducive factors required for it to sustain itself. Two things. Now, there must be facility within us to gather those conducive factors which are conducive for our existence. So for that, we need the desire to have those conducive factors. So that desire manifests in the form of attachment. So this, Charles Darwin says that attachment is the natural gift, natural evolutionary gift for us to bring together all the conducive factors for our existence, number one. Number two, anger. So for this existence, there are threats, and the threats must be expelled, must be eradicated. So what helps us to eradicate them is only we have the anger. So the anger is a natural gift of evolution, of the human evolution, which is meant to push aside all the threats. So this is how we can possibly continue to exist as a species. So this is Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory. So now from this point, and in fact many people believe in this. Many people believe in this. And in fact, if you look back in the history of the humanity, if you look back in the history of humanity, for example, the Nazis, right? The Jews, and the Nazis, right? So what happened to the persecution? How did it happen? How did it happen? It's more like a bully. It's more like a bully from Hitler. It's bullying, which means that there's a threat coming from Hitler for the existence of this group, Jewish group. So if somebody, so this is, I'm trying to explain according to Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory. If they cannot fight against the persecutors, then they would have died. They would have died. Believe it or not, recently I was in Israel and I learned from them. Every day, at one point, for more than 1 year, every day, something about like 15,000 Jews were just randomly picked up from the street, and they were all sent to the gas chamber. Amazing, unbelievable. So from that point of view, what Charles Darwin said may make sense, right? Okay, so this is according to Charles. Now, when somebody has 100% belief in what Charles Darwin said, it could have a terrible repercussion. Then the belief in might, physical might, belief in physical might may take the precedence. With this, then the world cannot possibly find harmony, cannot possibly find peace. Whereas 2,500 years ago, the young Prince Siddhartha, he went into 6 years of practice, and finally he came up with a very different theory, way ahead in time, and he came up with a very different theory, as very much in opposition with what Charles Darwin came up with. So what he came up with is that anger, it does not do to destroy your enemies. It does not do to destroy your threats. This is the greatest of the threat for your existence. He came up with a very different theory. Anger is the greatest threat. It is not to dispel the threat. It is the creator of the threat. And this is a threat, itself is a threat, greatest of the threat. Nobody can destroy you. It is only your anger who can destroy you. Nobody can destroy the peace of your mind. It is only anger which can destroy the peace of mind. This is what he came up with, this theory. So then he said that, but then what about what Charles Darwin said? Of course, in terms of time, Buddha Shakyamuni appeared 2,500 years ago, and Charles Darwin as recent as compared to the Buddha Shakyamuni's appearance on the earth. So Charles Darwin said that no anger is required. 2008, when I was in America with Professor Paul Ekman, world-renowned psychologist. In fact, he is renowned for him being one of the pioneers of the facial expression, the micro-facial expression, the science. The first evening I had with him, he called many of his the psychologist colleagues, and we had some very casual gathering. During the gathering, there's one lady psychologist. So he asked me, Professor Paul Ekman asked me to introduce myself and what is the theme of the Buddhist studies. So I was talking about how to get rid of the negative emotions such as attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth. And these are the impediments of our happy, harmonious, peace of mind, and so forth. And then after the very brief introduction, a lady psychologist stood up and asked me a question. And how can you think of eradicating anger? Anger is a natural gift for us. Without this, how can we survive? In the first place, it is instinct. Instinct means which we cannot get rid of. We can't do anything. This is what she said. And I said, that's not true. This is what we believe. First of all, we believe that the anger that we have is instinct. In fact, this is not true in the first place. Second, what is instinct? We believe that cannot be eradicated. This is not true. Number two. Number three, this instinct, even if it be the instinct of the anger, and it's believed to be the one to eradicate our threats. This is even more untrue. Even more untrue. So the question is, how? Okay, with this, whatever I'm going to discuss with you here, just don't take it blindly. Simply because it is coming, oh, he said it, so therefore it is like this. No, right? Always see if you agree, if it makes sense to you or not. This is what we have to do. Don't take things blindly. See if it makes sense to you. One. Then, if it doesn't make sense to you at this moment, then take it as a food for thought, for further analysis, particularly telling this with your life experience. Right? Oftentimes you can experiment it, subject this to experimentation, right? Say one day you fight with your brother or sister, your husband, wife, or you with your children, fight for 1 week and see what's the outcome. And the next week, you being so kind to the other side and see the outcome. You experiment it. Don't just have blind faith. See, try to apply this, try to tally this with your life experience and see how that is true, how that makes sense to you. And see how best you can make the use of that. Okay, with this in mind, what I'd like to share with you here is that our mind is very funny. Our mind, His Holiness said one thing. This is really very fascinating. This he said when he must be in his 30s, much younger than I am today. And amazing. He said that we, the people of the world, we are so curious to explore the world. We are not satisfied exploring the world. Now we explore the moon. And we are not satisfied. We are exploring the other world systems in the galaxy. Right? Okay. But we don't explore what is going on. Small world of the mind. We never explore our own mind. We only keep exploring outside. We don't explore our own mind. This is where if we explore, the world will find a much better hope in the future. Okay, this is what he said. With this mind, our mind, when we explore this, we see that our mind is like a traffic. Our mind is literally just like a traffic. It can go haywire. And Delhi traffic, like Delhi traffic, is just terrible, right? Terrible. And then, say, the same mind can be like a very smooth traffic, very chaotic traffic, and the dance, group dance, very professional group dance. Where the professional group dance, there are so many people, but they are not chaotic. Everything is so smooth. Traffic means, particularly very chaotic traffic means, there are so many people because of which there's a traffic. And particularly, nobody follows the rules, traffic rules. Then it's even more traffic, the chaotic. Okay, so why there is tremendous chaos there? Because there are so many people. But with the professional dance, group dance, there are so many people there. More the people, more beautiful the dance. So this is exactly what we can see of our mind. Our mind, when our mind at one point, it can display like a very chaotic traffic. Right? And on the other hand, at times, the mind can display like a very beautiful dance or group dance, professional group dance. It's so beautiful. Okay, now tell me, what is this analogous? What is this analogous to? This is a question. Say, when a mind takes one form, it becomes chaotic. What is that form known as? That is known as anger. When a mind takes the form of anger, the mind becomes very chaotic, extremely chaotic. When the mind becomes very chaotic, we are very unhappy. And we don't want the unhappiness. Whereas when the mind is the opposite of the chaos, opposite of the anger, compassion, the mind subsides. There's a tremendous beautiful dance there, beautiful dance of the mind. So now, what should we do? If we are to make this chaotic traffic, all these people you take out from the cars and make them have a professional dance. First, what should we do? We should teach them how to stop being grumpy towards the other person in the traffic. We have to first teach them how to stop being grumpy towards the other person, right? Just another car cuts you, you become so angry, you shout in the car, other person doesn't hear you. And your immune system goes down, your blood pressure shoots up. Right? This is what is happening. First, we have to learn how to cool down our anger, number one. Once the anger is cooled down, then what happens? This chaotic traffic stops. Traffic stops. And your mind will be free. You'll feel peace. Peace where the disturbance, mental agitation stops. This is so important. One. Number two, what we want is we want happiness. What we don't want is we don't want agitation and anger, the irritation. So the irritation subsides, agitation subsides. Now what we want is we want happiness. For the happiness, then you reach out to other sentient beings. You reach out to others. That is done by compassion. So when your mind is totally chaotic, we can't really reach out. When your mind is so totally turbulent, angry towards others, pushing others away from you, impossible that your mind can reach out towards others. So first, before we reach out to others, out of, say, love and affection towards others, what we do is that first calm down our own agitation. Calm it down. Once the mind calms down, then what do you want? You want, say, particularly, in fact, this is my experience. When I was 2012, when I was with my personal retreat in Lahore, Spiti, Lahore. So there, in a very small village there, and in my retreat, I don't see any people there. So in the daytime, I used to go around a stupa, and there, when I see one person, any villager, any person, there's a tremendous joy coming in me, wanting to exchange, wanting to share something of Dharma, wanting to share, say, a little bit of what are you doing, make the other person happy. So this kind of feeling automatically comes. Okay, so there, now to reach out to others, before that, we have to first stop the irritation, which pushes others away from you. So that is done by anger. Anger has to be subsided. One. Once the anger subsides, then you can expand your happiness. How to expand your happiness is through expanding your compassion towards others, reaching out to others. Okay, the two jobs. So therefore the topic is healing anger. First to subside your anger. Once the anger is subsided, then your job is to expand the sphere of compassion, which is a part of compassion, right? Of course, if you work on increasing compassion, automatically anger subsides. And if you work on to subside your anger, it leaves room for compassion to grow. But the efforts must be put separately. And later on, as we become more expert, gaining expertise in this practice, then the process you subside anger, automatically it chews up your compassion. The moment you increases your compassion, anger subsides. So that is one comes a little later. So with this in mind, what I'd like to share with you here is the one thing that I'd like to share with you here is so this group, I see that some of you are more exposed to some Buddhist philosophy teachings, and others may not be exposed, but don't worry too much. As I promised earlier, I'll try to keep it as simple. Okay, so there we see that anger is a mental state which pushes others away from you. This is anger. And compassion is the mental state which brings others closer towards you. There are two things. One is which pushes others away from you, that is anger, and compassion is what brings others closer towards you. So how the mother does to the children. In fact, I remember one memory which is so striking in me. So now, because I'm almost reaching 50, so now even the memory of the past, memory is not fading away, but that emotional part is little fading away. Earlier times, one which makes me so poignant is the reminiscence of myself, my mother with the three children, my sister, my brother, and I'm the baby of the family. The youngest one, 3. And I remember a huge boulder. Whenever I speak about compassion is a mental state which brings others closer towards you. When I do this gesture, it simply reminds me of, say, my time when I was age 3 or age 4. Age 3, age 4, for sure not older than 4. Age 3 or 4, for sure not less than 3. For less than 3, I don't think I could remember that. 3, 4, I remember. Okay, age 3, 4, I remember that my mother being a very remote, very simple villager, cuddling all the 3 children. And I being the youngest, I get the best place. Yeah. And then cuddling all the 3, and then she used to sing a song. So that song, so now, by the standard of the other good songs, this song is just a very, very remote village song, folk song. It's just nothing. It's not at all pleasant. But to my ears, this is the best song. Because this song is associated with love and affection. And the mother's love, believe it or not, the mother's love, the most precious love. So there what my mother used to do, she used to cuddle all the 3, bring all 3 together closer towards her. So this is compassion. Compassion is a mental state which brings all others closer towards you. This is compassion. This is so precious, so precious. So in the process, what happens is that, don't forget, in the process, compassion. Oftentimes people have a misunderstanding that compassion is something which is good for you, good for others, not for you. But in actuality, it is just the opposite. the first thing that happens to us with the compassion is that you reap the benefit. You reap the maximum benefit out of that. You reap the maximum benefit. Okay, so with this, what I'd like to share with you here is that this part may be a little technical, but it's very important. Very important. Say whether you are happy or whether you are unhappy. I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama quoting one, some kind of a very simple idiom, not really idiom, what do you call it? A proverb, yeah, very simple proverb, which goes as, whosoever is kind towards you, that is your parent, and whichever is good place for you, that is your homeland.
Whichever is?
A good place for you to live, where a conducive place, that's your homeland, and whoever is kind to you, that is your parent. Right? So which means that what we want is, we want everybody to treat oneself like their own child. Which means that we want to be loved by everyone. One. Number two, the area must be so conducive that you don't want to leave this place. Which means, in other words, what we seek is we seek happiness. We seek happiness. We seek happiness. And what we shun is we shun miseries. So this is what we have to start with. And the happiness and the miseries, it's not that if you are with your parents, you are happy. If you are with other people, you are not happy. If you are in your own homeland, you are happy. If you are in another place, they say foreign country, you are not happy. This is not reality. This is not reality. So happiness, unhappiness is not 100% guaranteed by external objects, right? Somebody, say, who may be born outside, but coming to India and feel India as a home. That happens to many people. And some Indians, they're born in India, they go abroad, they find there like a home. So that depends on the individual. So in other words, happiness and the unhappiness. This is again, of course, admitting that external factors contribute to this, but finally the mind decides whether you're happy, unhappy. This is so important. If your mind is in a turbulent state, even if you are with your mother, you are unhappy. Even if you're in your own homeland, you are unhappy. So the turbulent mental state. So what creates a turbulent mental state? This is a question. Right? And then say in other situation, you may be away from your family members and you apprehended. You might initially have some apprehension that now I'm separate from my family, I'm very unhappy. Then there you are even more happy. Because people, they are so good. And the place is very conducive, right? It suits your health. So that way you feel that this is your home. And the people around there are like your family members. This can happen. So finally we see that it is not external objects per se that decides whether your mind is at peace, whether your mind is disturbed. So finally we have to look for what are the things which really disturb my mind and which really make my mind at peace. Okay, let's say this part is very important. Only if we become confident in this part, then we will know how wisely to keep ourselves happy and how wisely to shun the miseries, the problems. Only if we come to gain conviction, that finally my own mind decides whether I'm happy, unhappy. It's not really the external things. Okay, this is so important. Okay, with this, if I ask you, say, when you're most unhappy, say for example, one moment you are very agitated, very angry, You're very angry. Are you happy or unhappy? Very unhappy, no doubt. Very unhappy. Okay, you are in a foreign country or you are in a foreign place. Are you happy or unhappy? Not sure. Where you are very angry, are you happy or unhappy? 100% unhappy. That you can be sure. You getting it? So now, say if you go to a foreign place, and the people, they don't treat you as friends, and then you feel so lonely for some time, then slowly the anger can come in you. Right? So the place can slowly trigger anger in you, and the anger makes you unhappy. You agree with me or not? Okay, so this thing we have to keep in mind. If the anger has that capacity to make us unhappy, what's the opposite of anger? Compassion. Love and affection. Compassion. So compassion should have the opposite force, opposite factor, opposite the effect. That is to make you happy. Okay, now the question is, saying with the anger, what happens? What happens with the anger? What is really happening in us, and how to deal with these angers? Healing anger, to deal with anger. How to do that? Okay, so there we see that the same anger, as I said earlier. Okay, anyone who likes to share with us a moment of anger, a heated anger that happened to you once? Anyone? Anyone? Or you like to keep that confidential? Anyone? Or any moment of anger or any instance of anger? Anyone? Yes?
When someone tries to blame you.
Okay, when somebody tries to blame me. You getting it? When somebody tries to blame me baselessly. Baselessly, somebody tries to blame me. Okay, so then I become so angry. So what happens is that this anger, okay, keep this in mind. Okay, one example, this is good, one example. Anyone else? Yes.
Last year I went to listen to his volunteer teaching in Matlurganj and Kabir Saxena. He offered me a place in Kushita, but when I reached there, he said, you can't stay, you have to find some other else. So I was very angry.
Okay, let's say one is somebody baselessly blames you. One, number two, somebody says, I'm sorry. Now you have to be self-sufficient, right? Okay, then you feel a little angry. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Only if we know some real life experiences, then what we're going to discuss may have effect. Yes?
Kids don't study.
Okay, yes.
That makes us angry.
Okay, kids don't study, and you want them to study, or you don't want them to be happy?
We want them to study.
You want them to be study, and they don't do it. So you become angry. Okay, very real, very, very true. The example or true life experience. Anyone else?
When people try to harm you
When-
and
when-
your family, then you get angry.
When somebody tries to harm you or harm your family, then you really become angry. Very good. Okay, don't forget these examples.
When someone steals your money.
Okay, when somebody steals your possessions or money, very true. What about other possessions? It's fine?
Even other possessions,
Okay, including money.
including money.
Okay, including money, when somebody tries to steal something from you, then you become angry, right? Okay,
When people don't do things, what you want them to do.
exactly. You want them to do what you like, and they are doing the opposite, or they don't do that. Then you become angry.
Yeah.
Very good. Anyone else? There's a pressing, wanting to share? Anyone? If not, okay, good. So these are good, real examples. Do you see that? In all these cases, okay, now don't forget all the examples. Don't forget all the examples. Now my question is, so when these incidents happen, then the anger arises, right? When these incidents happen, okay, how many of you will raise your hand? Raise your hands. to agree with this statement that when such incidents as shared by our friends here, when these things happen to you, then there's a solid basis for me to become angry. Raise your hands. Okay, almost all of us. Very good. Okay, now tell me, with this anger, right? Okay, tell me, with this anger, what can this anger do now? In what way this anger will help you? So this anger is supposed to be helping us, right? As what Charles Darwin said, it should be helping us. Tell me, in what way it helps us? Anyone?
Destroys us.
Okay, don't be philosophers and don't be great saints, right? Just speak your mind. Speak your mind. When the anger arises, try to invoke the anger. Imagine that you invoke the anger and see how it helps me. Yes?
You see where that you're not being properly treated. It's a kind of awareness.
I say it again.
Awareness.
So the anger,
You become angry when something is not right. So it is an awareness.
okay, you have the awareness that something did not happen,
It's not okay.
that something is not okay. Something is not okay. So that is indicated.
That's the first level of anger.
Okay. So my question is, say, anger has already arisen. Anger has already arisen. Now the question is, in what way this anger helps you?
You become violent.
Yeah, it's a lesson and a learning experience.
Okay, is a learning experience of what?
So you, in future, you depend on yourself.
Okay, this is learning experience. For this learning experience, anger does not really help you, right? So to see that as a learning experience, we don't really need the anger, right? Right? You encountered the situation. You encountered, oh no, henceforth I should be self-sufficient, right? And meanwhile, with the anger, were you happy or unhappy? Very unhappy. So this unhappiness was not brought by Venerable Kabirji. This unhappiness was 100% brought by your anger. And you are not dissatisfied over this action. You are dissatisfied with the unhappiness. Instead, if Venerable Kabir said that, oh, now please be self-sufficient, and there's a joy comes to you. Instead of anger, instead of unhappiness, if there's a joy came to you, you will feel so grateful to Venerable Kabirji. You're getting it? You're getting it? Instead of anger, you will feel grateful if the joy comes. In your case, the unhappiness came. So this unhappiness was brought by anger. So this anger is the real enemy. This anger is the one, what you don't want is you don't want the unhappiness. This unhappiness 100% attracted by anger. Right? Believe it or not. Okay, so this is how we need to explore in our real life. I'm already now reaching 50s. From my life experience, I see even in my case, there are so many cases of anger. There are so many cases of anger coming up. And then exploring, I could see that this anger does not do anything good to me. It does not do anything good to me, 100%. Then later on, I make a commitment that I'll never give in to anger. Right? Still the habits are there. But this conviction must come to us. That agitation, irritation that comes to me is brought to me by none other than the anger. This conviction one must gain. Right? Okay, with this, first we have to look at the demerits of this the mental state of the anger, the demerit of this mental state of anger. And then, of course, the question arises, like what the evolutionary theorists, the psychologists, evolutionary theorists, they believe that if there's no anger, then you don't have the courage to fight, right? You have to what? So bring bring things to justice, right? In order to do that, there must be courage. So this courage is brought to you by anger. So without anger, you will not dare to even approach the person. Only when you become angry, then you can approach the person, right? Then we talk all nasty things which otherwise we will never say. And then when anger subsides, we regret. Right? This is what happens to us. Okay. Now, this is what many people think. In actuality, this is where we are going wrong. So the thing is that with anger, we get a strength to fight with our enemies. This is what we think. In actuality, this is opposite. In the process, how much we can fight, this is questionable. Before we actually fight, who is actually defeated is you. Agitation already is there. Mental unhappiness is there. This is the defeat. For example, say if you become so angry towards the enemy, and the enemy and you two are separated by distance, and you become so angry towards a person, then you don't sleep. You suffer sleep. Then your mother comes with the juice or tea. Hey, my daughter, my son, have some tea. What tea? You become so angry. And your poor mother suffers. The first person, your enemy, is having a sound sleep there, enjoying tea. And your mother suffers. The first person to suffer is your mother. And then you will not get the tea. You also suffer. And the whole night you are thinking about it. Your sleep suffers. Then what happens? Without the sleep and without the food, your body will decline. Your body suffers. And then in few days you will end up in hospital. Right? And your enemy hears about it. Enemy is so happy. Enemy wants to do something harmful to you. And enemy doesn't know how to do that. But there's something there within you who is doing everything for your enemy. Who is that? Your anger. Think very sensibly. Anger, it only destroys us. It does not do anything good to us, believe it or not. This conviction must come to us. Now with this conviction, the next question is, in practical terms, I do have this realization that anger only disturbs me, and anger only harms my near and dear ones. But it arises. How can I control them? This is the question. Only if we reach to this level, then the next steps will make sense to us. Make sense to us. Okay. Now, one thing, how to deal with anger. Is, okay, say this is what my teacher, my great teacher, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, one of the greatest logician, the philosopher in the world today. He's still alive, 84, 85 years old now. Amazing great teacher. One day he told me that it's very strange. The people, they fight cats and dogs. They fight so badly. Fight for what? To get a seat for 5 minutes. 5 minutes seat, bus seat. Right? Bus seat, you're going from this place to the another place, which is only just 5 minutes distance. And this is my seat. That is my seat. No, this is my seat. Then they fight. By the time, before they finish the fight, they already reached the other place. Nobody got the seat. And then what they got? They only got punches, both of them. Right? And they have to separate. If I tell you this, at this moment, what will you tell me? You will say that those people who are involved in fight, their thinking is so small. Right? Their thinking is so small. Okay. Now, because they see the 5 minutes not as 5 minutes, they see the 5 minutes as 2 hours. Or it's like 24 hours. When we see the small things as big, then unnecessary problems are created. Then the anger, all these things arise. Whereas, if you see the 5 minutes as 5 minutes, okay, just you sit there. You sit there and you think about something else. You think about something good. So before you finish thinking about it, the next destination already you get off. And you don't receive the punches. Right? And your mind is at peace. And the other person is also at peace. Other person very happy. Other person appreciates your kindness. So this how it's so smooth, it's so good there. Now, oftentimes, anger, when anger arises, what triggers anger? This is what we need to explore. We see that very tiny things in terms of space, in terms of time. Time was just a short moment, right? Short moment of happiness, short moment of whatever. So over that we fight. Then in terms of space, very tiny space, for that we fight. We look at all these things. Then, okay, if we can think back in time, say like 30 years ago, maybe for the younger ones, for two younger ones, maybe they say 15 years ago, something which happened 15 years ago. Today, if you can recall some bad incident, so there you may have a feeling of a retrieval of little unpleasantness, sadness, but not anger. In some people, anger can really still arise. But the anger then would be much more intense as compared to today. In many people, they have already forgotten. There's no place for anger. Why? Because of the time gap. Now, if we are to see the world in a macro time and a macro space, this is so important. If you learn how to see the world not the external world, the big world. What I'm saying is what we are interacting here. This like from the point of view of the macro world meaning, say, as a planet, as a solar system, as the Milky Way galaxy, as the part of the big universe. So with respect to this, what we experience in today, this space that we are finding, this is so tiny. Now, in terms of, say, the time span, what we are fighting over, right? We are fighting over, say, for example, say, like the seat, fighting for the speed, 5 minutes, and then fighting for, say, other things which last for a span of time. So that we think of, say, 1 year. We think of 10 years. We think of 15 years, 100 years. Oh, if we can really think about 100 years back in time, 100 years in the future, and then say 1,000 years back in time, 1,000 years in the future, what we experience today, the thing which made me fight with the other person is so insignificant because it's so tiny. So therefore, okay, tell me, amongst the people that you have met in your life, particularly those who are above 40, below 30, I would say you have not really met people. below 30, right? Because you are lucky. Below 30, you are very lucky, right? You are very lucky. Now you can choose who to meet and who not to meet. 40 plus, right? We have already met, right? In my case, already 40 gone, right? So now, without experience, tell me, with your own experience, tell me, how amongst the people that you've met in your life, how many of them, they think about time in, say, macro time, macro temporal time, and macro space, right? How many of you have met people who really think in that sense? So how do we know this? Very simple. Say something which ordinary people will consider so significant, so important, they fight, right? So in fact, one time, it was in old age home, and there was one person died, and then another old lady was telling me that the other people, they're so bad, other people in that same home, same building, was so bad, this person died, and then they did not have any respect towards this person. They were throwing his possessions outside like... I thought, no. I told the person, if I die, of course, say, my Buddha statue is facing. If somebody throws like this, then I will feel really unhappy. Other than this, say for example, whatever things I have, like my bags, whatever they threw in the sky, whatever, who cares? Right? Who cares? In any ways, I cannot possess them. In any ways, I cannot
Take them along.
take them along. In any ways, I cannot put them in a nice way and burn them. I cannot do that. I'm already disconnected. So who cares? Right? So this, just a very tiny, small thing, would just upset the person. So now, one thing that we need to learn, including myself, is how to see someone as a noble person. A noble person versus an ordinary person. What we said earlier at the beginning, how we began the discussion, was that we all have the capacity for perfect purity. We all have the capacity for perfect purity, perfect potential, perfect power. We all have that capacity, which means that each one of us has the capacity to be of the greatest nobility. We all have the capacity to be the noblest, to be a noble being, right? Now it's just a matter of how much we go into this line, go into this manifestation, awakening of this potential within us, right? Now, to make it very simple, how did the market begin? So where our potential becomes totally obscured, our perfect purity becomes totally obscured, remains totally obscured, where nothing is done to cleanse, to make it surface. That person is known as ordinary. And where some degree of cleansing has taken place, that person is noble, right? This is from a very technical point of view. Now in simple terms, it's very easy, right? Say, what can easily trigger agitation in the ordinary, in the majority of people? What can easily trigger agitation in the majority of the people? If that incident triggers agitation in us, in you, you are an ordinary person. Where the same incident cannot stir your peace of mind, right? Cannot stir your peace of mind, you are a noble person. Which means that this capacity, why you are able to do that is because you must be able to see this as an insignificant thing, not really worthy for you to spend time, right? Spend time. In other words, to make things easy, is that if we are easily provoked by external factors, we are ordinary beings. The less we are affected by external factors, you are a noble being. You're getting it? More we are easily affected by external factors, we are ordinary beings. The less we are easily affected by external factors, we are noble beings. You're getting it? And keep in mind that whether you're an ordinary being, whether you're a noble being, we all have the same capacity to be a noble being. We all have the same seed of nobility in each one of us. Don't forget it. Right? Okay. So that way we see that from this, we see that, for example, say, if what can easily trigger, for example, say in a family, let's say, in a family, all the other family members, whosoever put the plate, your mother, your brother, your sister, whosoever, I don't know whether the brothers do it, whether the mother or the sisters, they do it, say, put the plates, and then, in your case, say, yours one, all other plates and the spoons are improperly put. Yours one is plate and they are not really in an orderly place. Then you just see that, it's so biased. Who did it? So why? So look, this is a very small thing. You can actually put it correctly yourself. And why should it make you to become upset? So this small thing, if it triggers agitation in you, which means that we are so weak. For example, say, who can easily be affected? Say, you, all of us, without problems, the crack or the bone crack there, you go into the fracture, you go to the public, or someone who has a fracture, fresh fracture today, and go into the crowd, and another almost recovering after 2 months. So three of them, when they go to the crowd, who can be most vulnerable? The one with the fresh fracture, right? And who is the strongest? The one without a fracture. Tell me, the why? Why did you say that the one with a fresh fracture is the most vulnerable? Why? Anyone? Why?
Because
No?
any push can break it.
Because even a slight push can badly affect it. Why the one without any fracture is more strong? Why? Because even you fight, go there, nothing will happen to your arms. So you are not affected. You are not affected by the crowd. Whereas in the first case, you are easily affected by the crowd. So where you are easily affected by the crowd, you are weak. Where you are not affected by the crowd, you are strong. You understand it? Likewise, when external factors that can affect you easily, you are vulnerable, you are an ordinary person. External factors cannot affect you. You are a noble person, you are strong. This is how we check it. Now with this, the question arises, that's very true. So, when does one display our vulnerability? When? Very easy. See whether things can easily irritate you. Things can easily make you angry. If that happens, we are so vulnerable. So now with this awareness must be there. We must be aware. We must acknowledge that, okay, this is how I judge whether I am noble or whether I'm ordinary person. Whether I'm weak or whether I am strong. This is how I judge. This is amazing. This is a wonderful way of judging it. Now, after knowing this, when you actually go into the crowd, your family, your workplace, or in the metro, wherever you go, then say the small things, they trigger agitation and anger in you. Then you go, oh, I'm still weak. With this awareness, then what will you want to do? Anyone? With this awareness, now I realize that I'm so weak. So even small things can agitate me, can make me very angry. So then, what would you like to do next? Anyone?
When we
Not
realize
get
we,
affected.
yeah.
Not get affected, try to.
Yes. How? The question is, yes, now I realize that I'm sick. So I have to take the medicines. What kind of medicines? How should I control my anger? Right? So when you reach to that point, then you question, how can I control my anger? This is so meaningful. This is so meaningful. Then when you are able to confront your anger, challenge your anger, you gain, say, 1% success. Even that, what a joy will come to you. You will feel a tremendous joy. Okay, with this, one point which I shared with you is try to look at things. Always try to look at things. Don't always look at things from today. Right? Just whatever is today is the reality. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, 100 years back in time, 100 years in the future, they make no sense. Don't go for this attitude. Right? Of course, there is what is known as be in the present moment. Be in the present moment. This is a very different discussion. We can go into great length about it. But what I'm saying here is, say, when you are, okay, this is still, some people, they might have already heard about this, be in the present moment 100,000 times. Right? For you, clarification is required. Be in the present moment means be in the present moment with respect to the object, what you are thinking. If you think about the past becomes the present with respect to the mind that you are thinking. So be there. Don't think about the future and don't think about the conventional present here. When you think about the future, be focused there. Don't be distracted to the present and the past. Be in the present moment with respect to the object which you're focusing. Right? Say, if you're thinking about the whole universe, be in the present moment of thinking about the universe. Don't be distracted to tiny things. If you think about the tiny things, don't be distracted by thinking about the universe. Be in the present moment. This is a connotation. Oftentimes, people misrepresent it. People misexplain this, and people misunderstand it, and then they just end up in chaos. Then they say that if you always think about the present moment, then we cannot think about the past. If you don't think about the past, we don't see the difference between the present and the past. Without this, we don't know how to rectify our mistakes. If we don't think about the future, then we cannot plan. Without planning, the future becomes present and it becomes chaotic. So all these contradictions are there. Okay, so keeping that aside, what I'm saying is that one thing is just see if you can learn how to look at things not from a microscopic world, from a macroscopic world. See things, okay, say what after 10 years from now? What after 20 years from now? What will I become? Okay, so you look at me, so those young people, younger ones, age maybe 19, 20, 30s, you look at me, oh, he's already 50, like reaching 50. Okay, I'll also become one like him. 50s, right? Or you're very young boys, young girls, complexion very fair, right? Okay, when I'm 60, 70, will I maintain the same complexion? No, we are all like flowers. Don't forget it. We are all like flowers. If you cannot see what we are going to be like after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, very simple. Bring a flower and put it in your table. Keep it for like 1 week and then see. Initial, amazingly tender, right? Tender texture, the color combination. Then keep it for the next 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Then see slowly, so it starts withering. Then slowly, it's so repulsive to look at. This is how our body is made of. Our body behaves like this. Don't forget it. Okay, the more we think like this, then the small present things will not disturb us. They become so insignificant, right? In time. Then in space, what we are fighting over is the space here. It's just a very tiny with respect to, for example, if I say that, okay, say if you're running business, I'll help you, right? Okay, so I like to run a business. I'm desperately in need of somebody to give me some money on loan. I'll give you, don't worry, I'll give you 10 crore rupees. You're so happy. He will not tell lies. I'm so happy. You're so excited. You're getting how many crores? 10 crores. Okay, I forgot. Okay, 10 crores rupees. And I say, this is just for 1 day. This is just for 1 day. Then what happens to your excitement? Excitement drops. In what way? What can I do with this 10 crore rupees? Because the time span is too short. So when you see that things and short or long time span or space-wise big, space-wise small, it's all relative. Don't forget it. Things exist only in relative terms. So when you think about the bigger things in space and in time, then what we see of today, which is so significant in the eyes of ordinary beings, is really insignificant. You can transcend them. This is so important. This will make our life much, much, much easier. This will make our life so easy. Don't forget it. To think of things in relative terms by bringing into the account what? The macro world of space and the macro world of time. Don't forget it. This is so important. In fact, one time I was in America and there's one Tibetan girl. We went to the museum. And after coming back from the museum, the girl told her mother, and I was there, one thing which is very interesting. And she said that now I feel as though I'm so insignificant. I said, why? Just look at this museum, this macroscopic world, the universe, the galaxies, like this. And then the solar system, very small. Then Earth, even smaller. Then the place on which we live, say America, very small. And within that, say Washington, D.C., very small, too small. And then this person, even a dot, tiny, 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 invisible dot in this, the spectrum of the universe is so invisible dot. Then she felt as though like no hope, no meaning. And then whatever we consider so significant loses the meaning, right? So this is going on one extreme. This is going to one extreme. But this is very helpful. This is very helpful to counteract unnecessary, easily being affected by external objects. One. Then number two is, how to deal with anger. Anger is what? Anger, as I said earlier, is I want things to happen like this and this is not happening, as somebody already said it. You're getting it? I want things to happen like this and it is not happening. Then you become angry. Okay, now, when it's so tiny, right? Nobody will say that I want somebody to give 10 crore rupees for one day. Nobody will say this. Why? Because this means nothing. It's so insignificant. It's so meaningless. Because it's so insignificant, you don't want to think about it. When you see things as insignificant, then your mind is not agitated. It doesn't really make you feel that it should happen. Because why should it happen? It's so insignificant. So if you're able to see things in macro world, in time and in space, what we the ordinary people see as so significant seems to be so insignificant in your eyes. Then you are not affected. When you are not affected, then no room for anger. This is so important way of tackling our anger. One. Number two. Okay, say there are two persons. And both, day one, the person A cut you when you are in traffic. Day two, person B cut you when you are in traffic. And you know that the person B, day two, the person B had to cut your traffic because the person B's mother was in hospital, was a fresh car accident, and she was in hospital, and he had to rush. You know this background. With this, and A, you have no clue. You have no clue about the day one's, the person who cut you. So tell me, with whom you will feel more angry? Person A or person B? Why A? Anyone? Why A? But anyway, don't trust my face. Just tell me, why you become more angry with person A, not with person B?
You know the suffering of the bee.
Person B, you know the reason. Why the person? Because the person B is desperate. Person B is desperate. You are getting it? Person B is desperate. Okay. Now this is very important. Only if you know that the other side who did the mistake did it out of desperation. You're getting it? Only if you know that the other person made the mistake out of desperation, then instead of feeling angry, you will start feeling compassion. You're getting it? You're getting it? This is very important. This is very important. So therefore, we have the common expression. We have the common expression which says that, okay, there's a common expression which says that, put yourself in the shoes of others, right? Okay, you'll be fascinated. Just maybe like 3 hours before I came here, I received a text message, WhatsApp message, from someone who is terribly going through a mental problem. It's not, it's mental. It's more like an anxiety attack. For so long. And the persons, even the family members, they don't understand it. And the person had been just by herself for so many months, could not work. Forget about going to work. Even cannot self-sustain, eating, physical exercise. No, because of the anxiety attack. It was so long. Then the person text message me saying that even her family members don't understand her problem. They are saying that it's purely your mental thinking. You come out of this, you go for a job, and then your problem will be over. And the person said, it's impossible. I cannot even stand up. And that's very true. I know that. I've seen that. And then, very funny, then she would say that unless you are in my shoes, you will not understand my problem. And the other people, they would tell her that don't let us be in your shoes. You should come in our shoes. You should come in our shoes and come to work, do the work. This is what they told her. Okay, so what I'm saying, this is too much. This is too much. So what we do is this is finally anger. The first thing that happens is the anger destroys our peace of mind. This is for sure. We don't want the loss of the peace of mind. So what we do is that if instead of anger, if there's a feeling of empathy, feeling of compassion, you are very happy. You're much happier. You're much, much, much happier. Okay, with this, how to do that? How to do that is to put yourself in the shoes of others. For this, you have to know the situation of the other person. This is so important. You have to know the situation of the other person. Okay, now I don't know, my friend, he disappeared for so long. I think 2011. He disappeared now. I don't know where he is. Every day he used to come to my office. Every day he used to come to my office, even though I had a whole lot of things to catch up, and he would still come and sit in front. Then I was just busy doing my own work, and he would say that, Geshe, I know that you are very busy. I know that you are very busy, but please let me come to your office 2 minutes every day. As it's not going to be 2 minutes, it's going to be more than half an hour. But still, this is how he would say, please allow me to come 2 minutes and let me spend 2 minutes with you in your office every day. I said, okay, fine. And then still I'm very busy with my job. Then he realized. Then he said, oh, Geshe, I'll go out now. Oh, please tell me one word. What should I meditate? I'll go to Lodi Road Garden. And one word, what should I meditate on? Then I told him, okay, then I feel relieved. Now he's going to leave. I feel so relieved. I said, compassion. Then he said, no, he's not happy. He said, compassion, it works so well in the Lodi Garden. It doesn't work in the traffic. Again, I have to speak more. Then I said, okay, fine. In traffic, say, what happens? I'm there, the person cuts. Then I become so angry. There's no compassion in traffic. Then I told him, this person, do you know why he cut? Maybe his very young daughter must be waiting for the father to pick her up from the school. All the children left the school, and she's just waiting by herself there. If you imagine like this, then can you say that, how dare, or you will support this man? You say, oh, that's nice. Then he left, right? So this is how, if we're able to see what makes the situation that the other person behaves like this, then we will be able to empathize. With empathy, no agitation and irritation arises. This is so important, right? Okay. Oftentimes what happens is that there are two things. There are two things happening. When somebody does something nasty towards you, there are two things. Either the person has become so desperate, like, say, the mother waiting there in the hospital, or the child waiting there, very tender young child waiting there, and you have to dash. The person becomes so desperate. If you really understand the situation, you will really empathize rather than become angry. Whereas another person is so addicted to just cutting you, right? Deliberately doing it. There are two things. When somebody is doing that deliberately, then what should we do? Right? What should we do? So there, His Holiness says, this is very important. His Holiness says that when we speak about compassion, oftentimes people get the impression that we should be very submissive. We should be self-denial. We should surrender to everything. That's not true. And then particularly people saying that, so with the practice of compassion, then people start taking advantage of your compassion. In other words, people abuse your compassion. Under such situation, what should we do? His Holiness says that compassion, say, if a mad dog comes to you, if a mad dog comes, don't say compassion, 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 run away. Don't say compassion, compassion, run away. Because a mad dog will not understand your word, compassion, run away. So somebody who's deliberately doing that, somebody who's deliberately creating the nuisance on you. So there we have to little run away. Take an appropriate measure. Take an appropriate measure. Right? Now, if you are to go a little more complicated, if you are to go a little more, if you go to a little more sophistication, even this person who deliberately does it, there's also a reason. There's also a reason. If this same person is the Prime Minister of India, he will not have time to even cut you. He will not get even time to do that for you. The fact that he is doing this means he does not have that capacity to be some great, right? Because of which he got the time to cut, right? In fact, if somebody is there trying to deceive you with the say auto wala or the taxi wala trying to deceive you for 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 20 rupees, fighting with you, cat and what do you call it? Cat and dog, fight like this, which means that the person might have difficulty with financially in difficult situation. If the person is like a Bill Gates, the person will have no time to fight with you over 100 rupees or 200 rupees. Will give you $1 million, not million, sorry. Say 1,000 rupees easily they will give you. So which means that the person really deserves a compassion. So that is a little more sophisticated. So there, at times, when you really go into the sophistication of seeing the other people's difficulties, sophistication, then there will be no room for anger within us. Only compassion grows, right? And then because of which your peace of mind is forever guaranteed. The irritation is never there. Okay, so with this, there are many more things to be said. One thing I like to quickly say is that when we're confronted with things, situations which can trigger anger in us, how to take the measure. You're getting it? When there is a situation which can potentially trigger anger in us, how should we deal with this situation? This question. Okay, one, there's no hard and fast rule to say that you have to treat like this, you have to behave like this, that. No, there's no hard and fast rule. It depends. Okay, let me share with you one thing. Say it happened in Tibet. Once there was a traveler, and the traveler met someone. It was far away from Lhasa, the capital city of Tibet, far away from Lhasa, and the traveler intended to go to Lhasa. And on the way he met with someone who came from Lhasa. And the traveler asked the person as to how long does it take? How long does it take to reach Lhasa? And the person did not reply. And he thought that the person did not hear. He asked the second time, "Sir, how long does it take for us to reach Lhasa from here?" Again, the person did not give any reply. And the person thought, okay, he's not interested. And then he left. Then after 2 minutes, then the person shouted at him, hey sir, come. Now it'll take 3 days for you. Then he asked, why did you not give the reply when I asked you the question? Now I'm not asking at all and you are giving me the answer. He said that, when you asked the question, I did not know what pace you are going. Now in 2 minutes, I could see your pace, the pace at which you are going. So with this, I can see that you reach Lhasa in 3 days. Right? So therefore, there's no hard and fast rule to say that when something of this situation arises, you have to act like this. There's no hard and fast rule. It depends on how evolved you are. It depends on what pace you are going. It depends on how evolved you are in the practice, right? Say, in most cases, or in other words, say, if the situation is there, if somebody says, you're a stupid girl, you're a stupid boy, somebody says like this, and you become so angry in public, right? So angry, and then, hey, compassion. Hey, compassion. Now he or she is testing your quality, whether you are a noble person or whether you're an ordinary person. Testing. What testing? Right? Then you become even more angry. Which means that there's no way by which you can do away with this problem. So here, if this is the situation, which means that we are very basic. When we're very basic, we have to follow the first step. The first step is to keep the distance from the stimulus. To keep distance from the stimulus. Right. One. Number two, say, if we happen practicing compassion in a meditation, compassion, and then say when you do the steps for the compassion practice, like the sevenfold cause-effect method, the equalizing and exchanging method, with the two methods, you follow the 7 steps, you follow the 9 steps, following each of the steps, then slowly, gradually you see the compassion is growing in you. Then it becomes, you can feel the goosebumps on your body. So it is with effort. With effort, now you see that the compassion is growing in you. You could feel it. Okay. Now, whereas in the public, you don't have time to sit like this. First step, second step, third. You don't have time. Somebody says, "You're a stupid guy again. You're a stupid boy here. Again, you are here. What for you come to Tushita?" Right? It has been 10 years that you are in Tushita. What happens to you? No change within you, right? And then what happens? Okay, wait, my compassion. Step 1. Step 2. Step 2. No time. Anger already arose, right? Anger arises. Instantly the anger arises. Okay. On a such situation, then somebody, your friend says, "Hey, Dorji, stop for a while. No anger. At least don't shout at him. Just remain. Be mindful of compassion." Every morning you are doing the practice, compassion. 7 steps. You remember that? Yes. 9 steps. You remember, like, yes. Okay. What happened to that? Okay, that's true, right? And then you think about it. Okay, that makes sense. But he said this to be in public. Okay, yes. Still have to have compassion. So if this is the situation, what should you do is you can meet with the stimulus, but with precaution. Don't forget it. The first, try to run away from the stimulus. Try to keep distance from the stimulus. Number 2, when you reach to some degree of practice, then you can meet the stimulus, but with precaution. But with precaution and precautionary measures, that you don't give chance to the other person to create, say, direct abusive the things on you. Number 2, right? Okay. Then number 3 would be more like equal. Say, if you are into the wrestling competition, other person, and you are equally good, then you are not really afraid and you are not really overconfident. So you are on an equal status, right? So this is number 3, more like 2 friends who do not really have to, say, bow respect or be contemptuous, more like equal status. Then number 3 is like a mother and a child. No, number 4 is like a mother and a child, right? In fact, this is what I noticed. Say, one of my cousin sisters, she was, when I was in my school days, she was physically so fragile, so sick. And then her son was very young, and son was just hitting the mother. And the mother, no anger at all, just trying to stop the boy and embrace him. So, no anger at all, only compassion, love. Likewise, when you reach that 4th level, it is like when your compassion dominates over the anger, supersedes. Your compassion supersedes over the anger. Whatever, anything the other person does, only triggers happiness in you. How? One is that, say, the person is being so nasty. Nasty means that, are you affected? Not affected. If you're affected, which means we are weak, right? Now, finally, I should become strong. So that no external factors can affect me. How many such external factors are there? 1, 2, 3. millions and trillions. How can I always challenge with each one of them, one after the other? If I become so strong, where no external factors can affect me, then I can go freely to the external world, where no external factors can affect me at all. So this is our goal. With this in mind, so our job is to challenge. Our job is to challenge the external factors, to train, to take that as an opportunity for us for our training. It is like, say, Muhammad Ali. How many of you heard about Muhammad Ali? Okay, the younger ones? Muhammad Ali? No? Oh, Muhammad Ali, you know? Okay, boxer. Legendary boxer, right? Yes, legendary boxer. Okay, now tell me. If you have the same skill, same physical skill meaning the talent as that of Muhammad Ali, if you say you're age 5 and Muhammad Ali also age 5, two of you have the same kind of talent. Imagine Muhammad Ali went through some training, and your training is such, the coach is your mother. Your mother is your coach. Imagine. Which means your mother will never punch you. Yes, no? Right? Your mother will simply do, if somebody hits you like this, he will never punch you because she loves you so much. He will never punch you. Whereas Muhammad Ali, he must have been receiving so many punches. Right? Can you imagine that after 20 years of training, you will become the legendary boxer without receiving any punch? Just your mother as your trainer. You will never become the legendary boxer. Somebody who becomes a legendary boxer means someone who has received all these punches during the training season, right? So only with the punches we can grow. Without this, we cannot grow at all. And to become Buddha is even more difficult to become the legendary boxer. So we have to go through all these challenges. So these challenges, these are the opportunities for us to grow. When we actually practice it, then we will feel that these are the real challenges, which are the opportunity for me to grow. So now the next phase is seeing the challenges as opportunities. So when you see things, say the same object, seen as challenge, you feel demoralized. Seeing the same thing as opportunity, there's a lightness, feeling of joy in you. You're getting it? So there we see that the worst of the challenge, the worst of the happiness. And who's the worst of the challenge? Your enemies. So your enemies, we see that it gives you tremendous joy. So this is the fourth phase. So this is how we deal with the realities. Okay, I think there are several more points to share with you, but I'll stop here.
Question answer.
Yeah, question answers. Any questions? Yes, Ajirji.
Usually when you're talking that the stimulus should be kept away, I really find it's very tricky because the trigger of the stimulus is so quick and so overwhelming that only when the anger is away one knows, yes, the stimulus is really arising. So like in the case of the compassion, which is sevenfold and the exchange the self for others, which has got a very good framework, what is the kind of framework that you really put or suggest for keeping the distance away?
Keeping the stimulus
away.
Okay, this is a good question.
Because just to say the run away, by the time one is really thinking run away, it has already taken over.
Okay. In fact, this is a good question. The question is how to practically go away from the stimulus, because the stimulus you made it and the emotions already arose. How to practically do that? For example, say if there is someone, so practically now I'm speaking very practically on the practical ground. Say at a workplace, say you have like 20 people around you, and amongst the 20 people, so one is the always little pokey, right, and just being very impatient, even with small things, and you're being very kind. You say something, and then the person may take that as an opportunity to fighting back against you, would have a backfire, say, effect and so forth. So there, knowing that, oh, this is, so because, although this is one incident, but now for the next, if you are going to be in this job for the next 5 years with that same person, right, you're going to encounter the same person every day, every month, every whole year you're going to meet with this person. So that, in such situation, you keep a little distance. Keep a little distance from that person. Whereas a new person, for example, in the market, we cannot, this is really something we should be, if as the person tries to say like this, you run away, right? So whereas at workplace, where you are frequented with the people who you are with for a more longer time, so these we can take the measures, one. And then, associated with this, what I'd like to share with you is that keep in mind that the world is imperfect. Keep in mind that the world is imperfect, and including yourself. Not that the world is imperfect, I'm perfect. World is imperfect, I'm also imperfect. So, if the world is imperfect, and then anything imperfect come into being. So what can I do? So this is what we need to keep in mind, right? Okay, this is the keeping away from the stimulus. And then the good thing about keeping away from the stimulus is that once you keep away from the stimulus, what happens? The stimulus, if it's a human being, will sense that you are keeping a little distance. When the stimulus feels this, that you are keeping distance. So from there, the person will respect for your ability to see the other thing. So from this, when we meet, don't show anger, don't ignore, right? When we meet, speak nicely, talk nicely, face with confidence. Don't lose your self-confidence while keeping distance. Then, when the opportunity arises for you to help, again keep a little distance. So this is what is taught in Bodhisattva Shantideva's book, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. This is a very important. Then from there, the other person will be fascinated to see a great quality in you. What quality? Quality that not mixing easily, yet with the spirit, bound with the spirit of compassion. How bound with the spirit of compassion? When the opportunity arises for you to help the other person, you are helping. Which means only if there is a compassion, the person will do like this. Otherwise, not do like this. So compassion is there, but you keep a distance. So this will teach the lesson to the other person that something is wrong with you. You must be abusing other person's compassion. You must be abusing the situation. So with this, other person will learn the lesson. Once the person learns the lesson, then you can mix with the other person, and the other person will not abuse any further. Once again, the second time abusing, again keep a little distance. Okay, next question. Yes, over there.
There's a number of reasons that you talked about that can bring about anger.
Please louder. Please louder.
So I personally feel that anger doesn't need a reason to come out. So all these external factors that we talked about they can be responsible. But for me personally, I feel a lot of times when I look back or even in the situation, there's no reason to be angry. I'm just angry because I'm angry. I can't see why.
Okay, this is a very, really true situation sometimes. Oftentimes, there's always a blame. There's something to be blamed too, right? But it does happen sometimes. For example, say the feeling of what do you call it, nostalgia. A feeling of heavy feeling of nostalgia. A feeling of heavy feeling of sadness for no reason. Sometimes, early morning, you wake up and then no reason, you feel deeply sad. So if these happen constantly, it is very important to take a physical medical test. This is very important because some of them are associated with the heart. It's very important, right? Whereas if it has nothing to do with the heart, If it has nothing to do with physiological problems, then try to reflect on compassion more. Practice compassion. With the practice of compassion, don't just say compassion. It will never work. Practice of compassion should be done with these two methods: the sevenfold cause-effect method and the 9 steps, or the equalizing and exchanging method, which involves 9 steps. With these 2 steps, you practice it, believe it or not, is amazingly powerful. At one point, initially it may sound as though like so mechanical. It's just like a tape recorder being played. The steps are being mentally reflected and then no effect there. You will see the effect slowly. And then with this, as the compassion grows, what happens? Compassion is what brings all others closer towards you. So this mind, which builds a tendency to bring others closer towards you, it will not push others away from you. So pushing others away is anger. Anger subsides automatically. So these, in fact, to practically experience it, these 2 methods must be adopted as a part of our, if possible, daily practice. This is so beneficial for your own happiness, for your own benefit. Any more questions? Yes?
Geshe, what would you say is the difference between, let's say, the psychiatric approach to dealing with anger and the Buddhist approach to dealing with anger?
Psychiatry, meaning the psychiatrist. Okay, this is a good question. In fact, to this question, first we need to know the relationship between the anger, and the physiological, same anger as the expression of the physiological damages, physiological disorder, right? Physiological disorder meaning, say, something must be wrong with the neural circuit, right? Say the transmitters, right? Say some bad, the synaptic connections must have been created, right? Or if it is more stable anger, then the synaptic connections are being built. If it is not stable, if it is just random, then maybe the transmitters, random, say, the exuding of the transmitters from one synaptic connection to the other. So this is how the medical doctors, particularly the psychiatrists, would explain. So that is more like anger is seen as the manifestation, expression of the physiological disorders, particularly the neural disorders. Okay, so in fact, one thing that we can keep in mind is that Acharya Dharmakirti, Indian great Zen scholar, 7th century AD, in his text Pramana Pratika, what he said is that these 2 things, anger in the form of the mental state, and the physiological, the setup, which is the brain, the matter, the physical, the body, physical and the mental. The relationship that these two have is that these two are very closely related, that one can affect the other, they can mutually affect each other. Right? So with this, what the neuroscientists, the psychiatrists, what they're trying to do is they're trying to tackle the physiological disorder, to fix it. And then that affects the mental thinking. That is also possible. Now another thing, so with this, what oftentimes, up to this point, oftentimes what happens is that when you try to tackle the mental processes through tackling the physiological process, particularly the brain, the neurons, what happens is that they make the person numb. They simply make the neural process numb, because of which both the mental states, destructive, anger, and the compassion, both become numb. Right? This is the demerit of tackling the anger through anger and depression through the approach by the psychiatrist. Now, whereas the Buddhist approach, this is tackling the mind purely, mind, anger, and the compassion, 2 things. You tackle the anger by enhancing the compassion. So there, compassion is not compromised, where the anger is subsided. And that affects the neurology. That affects our neurons. Right? So that dismantles the earlier the neural connections which are harmful to the, or which are responsible for the anger, and then they create new synaptic connections which are responsible for compassion. So that is what is newly being, the scientifically being the found. Okay, next question. Okay, if no question, then we'll stop here. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Professor Renugaji,
No,
and
thank you very much.
the, what is her name? Judy?
Something.
No?
Charu.
Charu, and Deveshla, and everyone here, and Venerable the Venerable Sumadiji, Venerable Kabirji, Venerable Samtenla, and all the attendees here. Thank you very much. Yeah. Good night.
Geshe-la, this is from Toshita.
Thank
Thank you
you,
very much.
thank you.
And somebody just left for you. And before we disperse, I just want to make an announcement that our cook from Tushita Dharamsala, his mother got operated here at Safdarjung Hospital a couple of days ago, and they are desperately in need of blood. If anybody would like to go and donate some blood, I can give you the phone number. You can call. Any you can donate. They exchange it. No time. Anybody can go and donate. The phone number is 988 25 25 64 331. Korea. You can contact them. Korea. Korea.
Would you repeat the number, please?
988 25 64 331. Very kind of you. If anybody would like to volunteer. Thank you. And thank you very much, Geshe-la. It was very, very useful and enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
And we hope we can all practice a little bit of patience.
True. Okay, thank you and good night.